got 3 minutes. That's disappointing. Oh, well, I'll go by your clock. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's time to call the June 10th Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Thank you for joining us, those are here and those are online. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Elizabeth, can you call the roll, please?
Mayor Harker,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cooper,
Here.
Commissioner Gilligan,
Here.
Commissioner LaPiccolo,
Here.
Commissioner Spiegler, here, Commissioner Oliver.
Here.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda that's presented?
So moved.
We've got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the items of consent. We have 3 items. One is the meeting minutes from the May 13th, 14th, 22nd, and 28th. Great job, Elizabeth, getting all that done. Meeting. The second one is the Capital Reserve Fund Amendment number 18. Third is case number 2411, special use permit for the watering hole. Can I get a motion to approve the items of consent?
So moved.
We've got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the public hearing, the proposed fiscal year 25 budget. Can I get a motion to open the floor for public hearing?
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. We presented the budget in early May to you, and we had 3 subsequent budget work sessions for the board. Just to review where we are with this, the total final proposed budget is $21,468,948. There's no change in the tax rate. There are no water and sewer rate changes, and we did institute through your action tonight, if it's the pleasure of the board to adopt the budget, a $5 per month for residential stormwater fee and $10 per month for non-residential stormwater fee. So just to recap, the changes to the budget, on the general fund, proposed revenue, we did increase investment earnings $200,000. On the expenditure side of the ledger, we amended line item 700-0200, $40,000. We increased it there, and we decreased line item 700-5600 rather, and that was contribution to other agencies. So 40,000 transferred from one line item to another there, bringing the total general fund budget to $16,097,056. There was no change to the utility fund. It remained at $4,898,360. However, there was a change. We decreased contingencies in line items 810, 5730, and 812, 5730, respectively, $43,500 for each line item for a total of $87,000, which was allocated for capital outlay equipment, also in the utility fund. But the net changes had no material increase or decrease, and again, remains at $4,898,360. The stormwater fund is $570,315, and again, this is a new fund, and it's the direct result of us borrowing money from USDA for water and sewer and also stormwater projects. And so this was a requirement by the local government commission to set up an enterprise fund for this purpose. We did decrease fees. The original budget included a $6 base fee plus incremental increases based off of different classifications, but the board decided to come back to a flat fee for residential and a flat fee for non-residential customers. So the total expenditures in this budget ends up at $473,532. Mayor and board, in your packet, you'll see how that stormwater fee is broken out. This is on page 53. We do have a Lassie grant, which constitutes the bulk of this budget. $294,815 is appropriated for the Lassie grant. And then from the stormwater fees, permits and fees, we will generate $178,717. So Mayor and Board, that constitutes your proposed budget, which we had reviewed in, again, 3 work sessions. And the final total budget is $21,468,948. And as you know, this is a public hearing and anyone from the public can comment. So thank you, Mayor and Board.
Yeah, thank you.
I do want to thank the staff for all your hard work. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Before we move on to any public comment, I want to see if the commissioners have any additional comments about the budget. Commissioner Oliver?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo?
None.
Commissioner Spiegler?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilligan?
No additional comments.
Thank you. So I'd like to open the floor to the public if they wish to have, make any comments about the current 2025 budget. All right. Yes. Please come up to the podium and state your name and address.
Robert Harper, 1020 Broad Street. I just heard there's a flat fee for stormwater runoff. Is that right, Todd?
That's
It's just
correct.
a flat fee?
There's a flat fee, and it's based off of residential and non-residential. Yes, sir.
I would object to that. I'm in the process of building a house, and I've built a house here. And one of the things that I always do is try to induce water back into the groundwater. It's essential for our trees. We live on a meniscus of water, and if we don't replace that water, we're gonna end up with all our dead trees. We're gonna be on a sandbar with no growth on it. Stormwater runoff is the main cause of the pollution in Time Creek by a study done by North Carolina State University that you paid 4 years ago. And I think that we need to encourage people to build in a way that limits stormwater runoff and enhances water permeation of the stormwater for those 2 different reasons that I give. So I'd urge you strongly to reconsider that. And like most towns who have had this issue before them, they encourage people to build in a way. Now, I know it's more difficult for you, it's more difficult for the staff, but that's part of building right. Do it right the first time, okay?
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make a comment? All right, seeing that there is none, can I get a motion to close the floor?
So moved.
Got a motion to close the public hearing. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you. Now we're going to reopen the discussion, and we have staff.
We
No,
need a
oh,
motion
so- I'm
on the
sorry.
budget, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to move right ahead. So now the floor is closed. Any discussions between the commissioners? Anybody wish to make a motion to approve or adopt the budget?
I'd be glad to make a motion to approve the budget as amended.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the budget as amended, Any further questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the quasi judicial proceedings. We're going to reopen that discussion, and I understand staff has some new evidence to present.
Good evening. As we're getting that pulled up, I will identify that the new evidence that was provided is included in the agenda packet as attachment B. This new evidence was provided by the applicant to comply with the board's request for additional financial information to review the principal versus accessory use of the business of the Periwinkle. Let me scroll through my original. They provided a lot of information. One of the slides I'll identify is a breakdown of the financial comings and goings of the business. It shows that 15% of their business is on-site alcohol sales, which is the component of the business that's attributed to the tavern, bar, pub use. So the board could consider a special use permit unnecessary for a principal use tavern, bar, pub, if that is not the principal use of this business. So I wanted to present that additional information today and open that for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Commissioner Oliver, do you have any questions for Michelle?
No, I do not. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Spiegler?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
Yes, originally, Commissioner Oliver, you thought that maybe they didn't need to apply for a permit? Is that why we had them to go back?
That's why we're back. That's why they're back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
So you find everything satisfactory now?
as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Todd or Ari, but if their primary business is not bar, tavern, or pub, then they do not have to have either special use permit. And I think, my understanding is that staff has looked at it, has looked at the financial data, and has become comfortable, if you would, that their primary business is not bar, tavern, or
Bar,
pub.
tavern, right,
So,
correct.
to me, I think the applicant could probably make they could,
Withdraw, yeah.
they do not require a permit, so unless they want, if they want one, they can apply or continue the discussion. But if they don't want, I think it's my understanding that they do not need any other consideration at this time. Again, that's the business today. If they turn into a bar, tavern, or pub, then they have to come back and get a special use permit.
All right, thank you for that.
Commissioner Gilligan?
No questions, but thanks for bringing us just what we needed for this decision.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Now, based on that, we can go a couple of ways. Is the applicant here?
She's just
She's
thinking.
Okay,
She's
okay,
right here.
just, okay, there you go, thank you. So, what is the decision of the board? You wanna,
Again, I think it's now a question of the applicant whether you want to proceed with a special use permit or whether you want to not proceed with the permit. Would be my understanding, Mayor.
okay,
If
Right.
the board would agree that the principal use does not require a special use permit, they could recommend that the applicant rescind the application.
wanna make that into a motion?
I'd be glad to make that an motion. Is that your intent, applicant?
Yes, sir. If we don't require the special use permit, we would absolutely love to rescind that application with the fee and
Okay, with-
continue to operate.
With that request by the applicant, I make a motion to terminate the request.
Sounds
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Got a motion on the floor and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Michelle.
very much for coming back
Thank you.
multiple times.
Okay. Now we're going to open the floor for public comment. Has anybody signed up for public comment tonight? All righty. Now we're just going to move on to new business. First one is case number 2410, Towns at Live Oak Site Plan. Todd, who do we have?
Recognize Michelle again, Mayor.
Okay.
Busy girl.
All right. This request is from Ron Cullifer, agent for 1809 LLC, for a site plan to build 135 unit townhome development at 1809 Live Oak Street. This property is an undeveloped 14-acre tract surrounded by a mix of undeveloped property, commercial development, and multifamily developments. It is directly adjacent to Food Lion as a good reference. The zoning district for subject property is townhome, condominium, and apartment TCA. The abutting zoning districts are TCA, R20, and B1. The proposed site plan includes the following features and aspects. I'm going to run through it real quick. 135-unit townhome development, including 69 larger 3-bedroom type 1 townhomes with 1,984 square feet, and 66 smaller type 2 townhomes, 3 bedrooms, 1,648 square feet. 297 parking spaces, 270 required parking spaces for that 2 spaces per unit, 1 provided in the garage and 1 provided in the driveway, and then 27 community spaces. There are 4 different types of landscaping and buffering, which I'll touch on briefly in a moment. 2 dumpster sites for residential use with 8-foot tall opaque fencing. Mail kiosk set up instead of individual mailboxes. There's 3 recreational facilities, a dog park, a playground, and then a walking path around the stormwater pond. There's 2 points of ingress and egress. The main entry is on the town's road connection to Live Oak Street. And the secondary entry is at the connection with the Food Lion parking lot, and they've got all the agreements set out for that. The town will maintain access to the well site at the northwestern corner at the back of the property. And there is a concurrent review for sewer allocation request at tonight's meeting. I've got the site plan here, and then I've also got the preliminary plat provided to exemplify that this project is true townhomes where we've got the land subdivided with the unit. It doesn't fall under a subdivision request because there's not land being subdivided to meet lot requirements for individual development. The land subdivision underneath the townhome only exists for the townhome itself. So it's kind of an in-between-Z, but a townhome is considered a single-family attached building. It falls under the same residential building code that our single-family homes do. There are 4 different types of applicable landscaping. We've got a type A opaque buffer along the right side and the top, type B semi-opaque buffer that's against the town's well site on the back corner. We've got stormwater pond landscaping required around there, and then our vehicle accommodation area or parking lot landscaping is kind of sprinkled throughout the whole development. These are the building elevations for the type 1 units. These are the larger units, and then the building elevations for the type 2 units. I did want to bring into light the infrastructure improvements that the town is doing to connect this property to Live Oak. We've got utilities as well as roadway improvements. So there is going to be a center turn lane and then a right turn into this. And Assistant Town Engineer Sam Bell is here tonight, and he can talk to that a little bit more if we've got some technical questions. But I did want to point those out. There are some improvements that are being done adjacent to this that'll help with that. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Thank you, Michelle. Let's find out. Commissioner Oliver?
So this will be a pure townhouse
Yes, sir.
construction project.
Yes, sir.
Does that mean that units cannot be sold individually?
They are sold individually. Yes, sir.
Okay, so they still can be sold individually.
I'm sorry?
So the units can be sold or rented individually.
Yes. Sold individually, yes. They're not, it's not like an apartment or a condominium development, it's townhomes, so they're owned similarly to single-family homes where you own the land underneath. And so it'll be kind of like its own neighborhood, and each individual landowner, and they can speak a little bit to the common area. But that is, let me see, there, yes, true townhomes, yes, sir.
Okay, so they can be sold individually is my question.
Yes, they are sold individually.
Go to the next slide if you would. Are there any provisions that are made for concerning stormwater for the two lots that are not part of this application, but between these and Cedar? If you can go one more to your parcel.
Here, let me find it. Here.
Yeah, there are two remaining lots to either side of the entrance road. There was some concern, I believe, years ago about how stormwater would be, those lots would be handled by stormwater. Is there anything in this application that addresses those future stormwater needs?
Not for those two lots. Those aren't subject to approval tonight. The designing.
I know that. My question
Okay.
is, has any accommodation been sought or protected that for future development for stormwater on those two lots, which at one time were all one parcel?
Okay. Not to my knowledge, but the designing engineer is here, and he may be able to speak to that, whether or not there is.
That's the only question I've got for Michelle. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lil Piccolo.
Yeah, was there can you go to the parking? Can you show me the units themselves? Are the garage spaces for the units, are they half car garage, or are they 1.5 car garage, or a single car garage?
Single car garage,
They're
yes.
single car.
And we did have the floor plans on the site plan so that we could see that there's sufficient space inside the garage to call it a true parking space.
Okay. Was there a traffic study performed for this development?
No, sir.
Is it required or no?
Not that I'm aware of, not that I found. Especially for the site plan, I think that there are some provisions for that sort of thing with subdivisions, but because this is a site plan review, it's not subject to the same items on a subdivision review.
Okay. And this meets the requirements for community spaces and so forth, for a number of parking spaces in that subdivision
Yes, sir.
per unit. Is it, I believe it's 1.5 per townhome, is that correct?
2 per unit.
2 per unit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. No further questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Spiegler?
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes.
I'd like to continue on the parking topic. So 2 per unit. So does that mean 1 in the garage and then 1 behind the garage in the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. And that, so I know in our ordinances for parking, we want to make sure we have enough parking, but not too much parking, right? So it's kind of this balance of just right. Knowing that sometimes we're going to have more people using this, like on maybe holidays or something. Does this fit in with our town ordinances? So is there enough room in the garage and then right behind the garage to fit 2 cars in there?
Yes, and that's something that we required to be shown on the site plan, to show the dimensions of those driveway spaces and the dimensions of the inside the garage space, to make sure that it meets the dimensional space requirements for a parking space in our ordinance.
So you would say that this site plan follows the parking ordinance, our parking ordinance and our LDO?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
Yeah, I have a few questions, but I think they're probably more for the developer or the representative here tonight versus you
Okay.
yourself. The only one I may have for you is I'm concerned about, you're saying do that if this is just a a site review, that a study was not necessary for traffic?
Right.
So, but the question is, will there be one?
No, not that I'm aware of. And the town is doing some road improvements in that area already, so we may be fixing the problem ourselves before one arises, but without a traffic study, I'm really not sure. Some recent information has been done as part of the county's comprehensive transportation project, so we may have some good numbers coming in soon to really see those capacities and current uses on city streets. So we may have some better information on traffic coming soon.
But we're putting some close to almost 300 units back there, which means, and at 2 cars. I mean, that's going to, not to say they're all going to be going and leaving at the same time, but, you know, I would think that we would need some type of, make sure there's some type of safety feature in hand to accommodate that. You know, such as turning lanes, you know, that would allow for cars to be in the turning lane
Yes.
separate from the regular traffic lane.
Yes.
So it wouldn't back things up as, say, traffic coming from the opposite end and there's a lot of traffic and car have to wait to make the turn.
And in that area right now, it is just that 2 lanes, but as
Yes.
part of the town's connection to that parcel, we are expanding, putting in that middle turn lane as well as a right turn in, and that's part of the town's infrastructure's improvements in that area. So we are already planning to put in that middle turn lane.
Okay, all right. And I think, like I said, I think my other questions might be for the developer or the representative. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilligan?
So the town is gonna implement some infrastructure improvements there with the turn lane. I'm wondering about Beaufort Spring, their turn lane, nearby is kind of a nightmare. I'm wondering if we could pay some attention to that while we're improving adjacent.
I don't think the plans that we have go down quite that far. And like I said, Sam Bell is here and he can kind of speak to those infrastructure improvements a little bit more.
Okay. But my other questions were covered by other commissioners.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions for Michelle before we invite the applicant and their developer? Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Culliver, I guess you're just popping right up. I love it.
Good evening. I'm Ron Culliver with the Culliver Engineering Group, representing the developer tonight in the audience. I have Dale and Allison Britt and Phil Collins with the development team. We want to thank staff for working with us and all the department heads getting to this point and through planning. I'll try to start with the questions Mr. Oliver asked. The 2 parcels that are on the highway frontage, they originally did have an agreement to have some kind of shared drainage going to the back. The water won't drain to the north, I guess it is. So they changed the agreement, and there's no longer any shared agreement for stormwater on this parcel. They'll be doing their own treatment on their individual parcels and draining back toward Live Oak. Okay.
I haven't gone, my memory hadn't gone completely numb.
No, there was an agreement.
Thanks,
You were
Ron.
correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
The traffic study question, there wasn't one done because the improvements were already basically proposed by the town. So there is a center turn lane and the right turn lane, and there was actually, oh, there it is on the screen. And those are infrastructure improvements that the town agreed to with the previous property owner, as well as water and sewer extensions to us. So we're numerous hundred feet off that we're tying into those town improvements, and I know Greg's here in the audience and he might be able to speak to those specifics, but we basically have designed to that northern stub for the water and sewer and the street tie-ins. That was the 2 key points that I heard, and certainly can try to answer any other questions that you may have.
Okay, we'll go around and see.
Okay.
Commissioner Oliver, did he answer all of your questions?
Not yet.
All right, so,
Sorry about that. Ron, from your part, and some of these are the applicant, are you going to answer for the applicant, or is the applicant?
I'm gonna try to. If I can't, I'll ask them.
So, there's a new name now putting into the HOA, which will be the construction portion, which will be by Cavanis and Cates. So basically, as I understand it, Cavanis and Cates is gonna be the builder, and the 1809 LLC will be the developer and the owner. Will they also be the operator of these units in the future? In other words, is that the long-term plan here, or do we know?
Well, since they're for sale products, so there'll be a HOA in full force at some point when the appropriate number of sales are complete, and it'll be managed by the HOA.
Okay. Has any, coming back to the road, and I'm gonna speak to this a little bit because some of these things preceded some of our currently seated commissioners, but the road, the commitment to the road, the commitment to the stormwater issue, the commitment to the turning lanes and the 3 lanes were made when the town sold this property to the interim owner between because the town owned this property. So I just want to double check that everybody knows that because it's an important commitment, and frankly, it's in this year's budget.
The streets have been funded, that's correct. Water and sewer extensions have not, and we will come to the board in July with a budget amendment to enable us to make that commitment for water and sewer connection.
And as memory serves me, it's about a $350,000, $400,000 obligation that I want to make sure that we all know our participation in this. Give me a brief summary, if you would, on stormwater. This is a relatively intense, impervious transition. And can you just give me a few minutes of stormwater confidence, please?
So the town of Beaufort has a rule that is quite a bit more strict than the state rules and regulations. It actually requires a substantial more water to be collected and held. So if you kind of look at the pond up to the top part of the page there, a normal state pond would be about 10% of the project. This one is, closer to 20-25% of the track associated. So the pond is designed based on the town's rules. So we meet the state rules and then the town's rules separately and been reviewed, through the engineering staff here in the town of Beaufort. And then there's the big canal just north of this that drains toward the school, goes under the...
Off of your property?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. And then drains over by Caraway Drive and heads out over by the intersection at 101 and Live Oak, eventually where it goes. We have a lot of extensive experience in the drainage in that area. And, so erosion control, state stormwater, town Beaufort review, engineering has all been done. But the pond is quite a bit larger and holds a lot more water than a regular state permitted facility.
About 120,000 square feet. It's big. It's big.
It's big.
2 questions on stormwater. Are the covenants adequate to protect and to inform the owners of these properties of the ongoing maintenance responsibilities that sometimes HOAs don't do a very good job with, and we end up getting drawn back in?
Obviously, you got to have active HOAs, and and the way this is set up, just for the common areas. I mean, there'll be people cutting grass, people maintaining the facilities, along with the stormwater pond. So at a point where I think it's 80% of the properties are sold, the developer will have the opportunity to go ahead and transfer that permit to the current HOA. That'll be the time during the transfer process is when the state will come do an inspection, make sure everything's in order prior to allowing a transfer to the HOA. So when the HOA gets it, it's up to snuff, and it'll become their responsibility to maintain it. It's all on their HOA property. There's a lot of vegetation. They got the walking trail around the pond, so they should see it on a regular basis, and just hope that HOAs do what they're supposed to do.
And do you know whether phasing is involved in the construction of these 135 units?
There is, yes, sir. You know, the lift station is off to the east of the stormwater pond. So the coming into the entrance road and going to the right toward Food Line, and then going to the north is our first phase. And then coming up and completing the west side and the follow-through road will be the following phase.
And looking through the covenants, I did not see any comments or restrictions concerning short-term rentals. Has that been considered, or is the developer willing to consider thoughts on that?
I'll have to defer to my clients. Has that been an issue that's been brought up, please?
Sure, thank you.
Can you use the mic, Dale? Because I can't hear you. That's my problem, not yours.
I've got the same problem. My name is Dale Britt, and it's my daughter Allison. But to answer your question, Bucky, you know, we're developing the property and we're selling the lots to Cavas and Cates Construction. They'll be building the homes and selling them. And there's been no consideration for, you know, restrictions on individual folks who buy these homes, whether they live in them, you know, or whatever. So, you know, so to answer your question, that has not been considered. You know, we.
Are you willing to consider it?
Well, as a developer, you know, I hate to tie the hands of the builder and the buyers. You know, I just, you know, that's never been brought into the equation. Of course, you know, we do have an agreement, purchase agreement with Cavas and Cates for the individual lots to build the homes on.
So to go back to my original question to staff, is Cavas and Cates going to be selling the units or only building them?
No, they'll be buying the lots from us. They'll be building them.
So you're selling lots to Cavas and Cates. They're going to build them, and they are going to market them and manage them.
They're going to do, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
I got that one answered. Obviously, this is a rhetorical question. Obviously, it's a high density thing. Do you feel you've done everything you can as far as trees and planting and green and everything that's possibly can be done within the confines of the 14.033 acres?
well, of course, we've met the requirements of the town of Beaufort, and I feel like they're.
That's the easy part.
Well, you know, our goal is to build a beautiful community, and that's our intent, because we, you know, as we do in other areas, but we, you know, if we'll put whatever landscaping is necessary to make sure of that. You know, as we go through the neighborhood, or as the builder buys the homes, you know, there'll be landscaping, of course, each individual unit. We'll be taking care of all the common areas, you know, around the pond, and of course all the buffer areas between the Food Line and the properties and so forth, and you know, of course on the back, and then around the stormwater pond also. So, but yes, I mean, you know, if we're told that what we have is not adequate, then we'll certainly improve it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The only other question I have for now is it your plan that there'll be no parking on the streets?
That is correct. No parking on the streets.
Okay, I would ask that you look at page 121 of our thing, because it says parking, and I would suggest that when you go back to Cavas and Cates, and that you take the word regularly. It says no trailers may be regularly stored out. I would suggest that you take the word regularly out, so that neither you nor we have to enforce it. If there's no parking, I think the covenant should say there's no parking. That's all I've got for now, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So I know you do want to build a beautiful community here, and you guys have met all the requirements. I do hope that you do consider some of the items that we did talk about with Commissioner Oliver regarding short-term rentals. I know you've done a bunch of building in Greenville, Morehead City, Archdale, so forth. Beaufort, with being a tourism area, this will get a very high number of short-term rentals. And there are communities here that have had short-term rentals and have had multiple phases that they built and have decided to go away from short-term rentals in their later phases. So you may want to discuss that with some of the other builders that are here, or that are here in our community, as to why that was, why they had made those changes. Next, my other concern is the parking. I feel like and I know you guys have met the requirements for parking, and completely met that. And like I said, we are a tourism community, so if you have short-term rentals or you have lots of people coming in and out, you're going to have issues with parking. And we've had other developers in our community just recently have difficulties with parking and are struggling with parking in their developments. You do have islands, I think, like desert islands of parking to the north, where there's just strips of the duplexes without any parking on the street or any additional parking. If there is any way you consider maybe removing one of the units or one of the areas for just parking, and I know that's a lot to ask, but I do believe that this is going to become a problem for you. So as you said, you're trying to build a beautiful community, trying to make sure that this is something that people are going to want to come into, that people are going to want to buy into. I do think that's going to become quite an issue. It's a very dense development. And I'm sure you guys will make it look beautiful, and you can do a good job with the developers, with the builders. But I do think just knowing this town and knowing the density that we have and the pressure that we have here, that you may want to consider that. It'd be any consideration for that, I would appreciate that.
Not quite sure how to respond to that one.
To me, I looked at some of the units and I thought if there was any way something could be removed or changed or just identified for additional parking.
Obviously, by the time we get to here, there's a lot of stuff that's going behind the scenes. With the permitting and whatever. But the density is the most important thing. You've got to have a density to pay for this infrastructure, and to build. Everything's expensive enough, and by losing density, the price per unit goes up. We're trying to be the workforce housing type of product. Who knows on the short-term rentals what the people of that community would like to do. I would hope that this wouldn't be one. Hopefully it's the true workforce housing type of occupant that we have. But that's years down the road that we can't predict. But in terms of the density, we'd ask to keep it as presented, with all respect.
I understand. It was just putting it out there as there may be a chance to pivot as the development progresses. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Spiegler.
Thank you for coming to speak with us today. So I'm going to continue on what Commissioner LaPiccolo was talking about. So you said that you're hoping this would be workforce development housing. Is that correct? So you have 135 units currently. Do you know approximately how much each would sell for? Is there an average price?
I'm sorry, but I do not either. Again, I can't speak for the builder. I really cannot. Everything has gone up. I'm gonna say I'm not gonna use the word exponentially, but everything's gone up considerably in the last 3 or 4 years, as we all know. The goal to put the smaller units in there was to have a blend of larger homes and smaller.
Dale, can you use the mic, please, for us?
The goal to put the smaller units in there was to have a blend of smaller and larger homes in there, to meet, the demand of, more affordability, I guess, if you will.
I'm concerned, so when we think about workforce housing, it's still, I'm concerned that this is not going to be workforce housing.
And I don't know, I really don't know the definition of that. I really don't. I don't know, interest rates have gone up, and, you know, what people could afford 4 years ago, you know, when we even started this project, you know, it's changed now, you know, with the interest rate structure. But, you know, again, we were trying to achieve the goal that to, you know, to put more affordable product in there along with, you know, the bigger homes.
So kind of just comparing it maybe to one of our newer developments, you know, that we have units going for 400, 500,000, maybe more. I mean, do you see these units going for 300,000 or less, or you think we're above that by now?
Well, you know, I'm going to say that, you know, compared to the other product that's being offered now, they're going to be less expensive for sure, but I don't know exactly, you know. So, you know.
I appreciate that. So just thinking, I'm going to continue with Commissioner LaPiccolo. So I'm also very concerned about parking. We heard Michelle earlier say, so there's going to be one spot in the garage and then one spot directly behind it in the driveway. Well, what if people have stuff in their garage and they can't pull into their garage? Or let's say you have two cars, right, and somebody's got to go to work or go, and they have to move in, they have to put it on the street so the other one can get out from the garage. How is that going to work if they're never allowed to park on the street? And who's going to enforce that?
So, excuse me, the covenants will hopefully have that mandate that the garage will have to be available for parking. That is, you know, part of the way the rules are currently written for the town of Beaufort. The no parking on the streets is something that the fire marshal has asked us to do, and we actually, I think, are going to have them marked. Is that yeah? So we actually have to mark them as no on-street parking. So, you know, the overflow parking, you know, they've got to use the spaces that is available, or they'll have to make other arrangements. I mean, the intent is to keep them safe from the fire marshal's perspective of the no parking, because they're limited widths, but they're large enough for fire trucks to do their work, but not if there's a car parked on the street. So we have the no parking commitment, you know, that'll be visible to our users. And then the two spaces that you have available, if you're living there, you've got two cars, you've got company coming, you got to make arrangements. I mean, you know, that's just the fact of the way things got to go nowadays.
So thank you for that. So getting to the safety issue. So I'm concerned with the parking, creating also a situation where there's going to be moving on and off from the street to the driveway as people are moving their cars around, getting out of the garage. There are no sidewalks anywhere in this development, correct?
There's no sidewalks interior.
Okay, so you're gonna have people moving their cars all the time, not being able to park on the street. You're gonna have kids. We're hoping this is gonna be a place for young families and kids. So lots of kids in the area, no sidewalks for any of the kids. Is that what we're saying?
It is. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the profile of a townhome community, I mean, there's not really a space for a sidewalk where you don't get crossed by a car coming in and out of the sidewalk area. So when this was set up and designed, you know, the lack of no sidewalk, you know, is the way it is for the townhome, the way this is set up. You know, basically it's drive aisles inside the community, curb and gutter, and then, you know, property line shortly thereafter. So even if there were a sidewalk, which is more impervious, more cost, all those things that are tied to it, they're still going through the driveway area. I mean, you got a townhome that's 20 feet wide, a 10-foot wide driveway, and then you got a little bit of grass and another 10-foot driveway. I mean, you still have that conflict with the vehicles, irregardless, in my opinion.
Yes, but we do know that sidewalks make neighborhoods safer. I have a young child, and I know it's much safer when we're on the sidewalk, and we are very fortunate to have sidewalks in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so, just curious, you have 135 units, going off of what Commissioner LaPiccolo said. If you were to remove a few of those units, how many would you have to remove in order to install sidewalks?
Let me speak to that, Ms. Spiegler. Our agreement with the builder is that, you know, we're not going to initially put sidewalks in because they just would be torn up when the buildings take place. But our agreement with them, and we've had them building, they've built these similar units in another community, but they're responsible for the interior sidewalks. I don't think it'd be a minute's problem, you know, when they pour their driveways and they're ready for sidewalks to put sidewalks between the drives. So, I mean, you know, we're going to be putting sidewalks in in the connecting areas from the entrance street from the town and also from the food line. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, and I think I can make a commitment right now that we'll have sidewalks in the interior, but they will not be placed until the homes are built. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, one last question. While we're on the subject of sidewalks, let's talk about trees too. There's no plan to put any trees in the interior either, is that correct?
There's not, unless he tells me they changed it again, so,
Well,
yeah.
your other plans show them around the pond, there are trees in your plan.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of landscaping out the project is very expensive. I mean, we got walls we're building, we got trees we're planting, thousands of shrubs, we've got everything around the pond, planted fencing. I mean, there's a huge landscaping budget here, but we're not showing any required landscaping interior. I'm not saying there won't be any, but we're trying to show what's required. So you have a homeowner with their backyard, they're gonna plant some trees in their backyard. You have the open area, between those units that I kind of visualize as a lawn just to have some more open space. But will there be trees? I'm sure the individuals will, but when you're trying to do a plan like this, you're trying to stick with what the regulatory stuff is. So I'm not tracking and the staff not tracking stuff that's not regulatory.
Yes, I hear you, and I totally understand that. So I appreciate kind of, as Commissioner LaPiccolo said, kind of helping us think through this. So, trees, I hear what you're saying, you're not required to do them, but they, offer many benefits. They can be protective during storms, they can offer stormwater benefits, they are very good for lowering heat, right? And we live in the South and we have a very hot climate. That brings the temperature down. So and they make our neighborhoods beautiful. So there's lots of great reasons why we should include them in our developments.
Totally understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here. Yeah, trees are great. In fact, when you guys started that development, and I was happened to be at Food Line one day, and I started seeing things tumbling down. I'm going like, what is going on? Forgetting about the development, but there was a lot of trees. I would like to commend you on your site plan. It's very good, the best I've seen that been presented to me and this board over the years. Great site plan. Question goes back to me in terms of, as I was looking at your covenants and I was looking at on page 113 and 114, seem to have a class system in terms of people purchasing the lots. There's a class A and a class B.
It's probably due to the different size units. I didn't prepare those and I didn't really study them. That's for the attorneys and the realtors, but.
No, it's between the declarant and then the ultimate user. It's the transition out of developer ownership.
Okay, thank you.
Well, again,
It's pretty common. The declarant controls it until you get to a certain point, and then the declarant drops out and the homeowners start taking in, and it's a transitional method to allow the developer to have total control during the construction and phase.
yeah, I was gathering. I was thinking that what it was, and so I had some concerns. In terms of the developer having total control to that degree. So if I buy a lot, the design is already permanently set as to what the house would look like?
Yes. Yes. And I suspect these will be closed after they're actually completed. They'll probably have models that you can see what they're looking like, and you pick colors and you do some customizing things that way. But the unit itself will in most cases be actually fully constructed and CO'd prior to closing.
Yeah, they're not going to, in my opinion, no, they're not going to be selling lots. They're going to be selling units.
Mm-hmm. Okay, also in your covenant, in Article 3, property rights, in terms of being able to vote on or off.
Yeah, I'm sorry again, the covenants wasn't mine. That's not the engineering side, but yeah, if you can expand, I can try.
I couldn't expand on it. I just was writing notes as I was reading along, so,
I've honestly been doing this a long time. It's the first time I've ever been asked about a covenant, so I need to do my homework better next time.
yeah, we try to do our homework here. We try our best. One thing, explain to me in terms of using, are you gonna be actually using the Food Line parking?
No.
Or there'll be a street that'll be running parallel with Food Line in their parking lot?
We're actually connecting to their driveway. If you know, there's a fire lane directly in front of the store, and then there's 2 additional lanes for east and west directions. We're actually tying into the 2 lanes that are going east and west. So somebody could go straight into our community or straight in front of the Food Line on the southern lane. So it's designed so it ties into those 2 travel lanes, and we'll have a stop condition, you know, where we're leaving our site, just to make sure that we're not having any interaction with the Food Line customers.
Okay, great. And you also had in there about inspection during construction, and I guess afterwards, on a weekly basis, especially if there's a rainfall of more than 1 inch. Also, a gravel pad to prevent mud or sediment from leaving the construction site.
That's correct.
Okay. Commend you on that. I appreciate it. As long as follow through that somebody is actually, you know, being aware, because sometimes once you get into a construction, then it get lost.
No, and I understand. What's actually happening a little bit different more recently is the land quality section is actually making pretty consistent site visits, and it's a good thing. I mean, it helps my community out. The contractors pay a little bit better attention to it. They do a better job record keeping. I mean, I think they're at least in the last year or so making almost monthly visits to active sites, so that's good.
Okay, great. The one last is I know we're beating you over the head with it, is the short-term rental. And I really would like for you guys to take a look into that, because as Commissioner Piccolo has commented, those who did not have that in their covenants is now regretting, because they find out more the home that are purchased becomes short-term rentals.
Yeah, we will definitely relay that message to the builders, and I actually have a meeting with them tomorrow. So if we don't get to them later tonight, I'll see them tomorrow.
Yeah, not trying to tell a homeowner what he can do with his home.
Yeah, you are.
But if you could put some, come on, buddy.
Yes, we are.
Yes. But we know we all gonna have problems. But if you can, they can address it to some degree to alleviate, you know, some issues that's gonna blow back into us and to blow into you guys in terms of short-term rental. Because if you go and ask a few, such as the current one that's going on, they would tell you that, you know, eventually the homeowner starts complaining about a house that's right next to them that is short-term rental.
I mean, we understand there's a lot of problems in the short-term rental market. You know, and it's unfortunately happening in a lot of places, but, you know, as a property owner, I'm definitely aware of those issues. But we will relay it to Cavendish and Cates.
And just as a little pundit or whatever, I see there's gonna be a street near Oliver Lane. You got a street in there?
You didn't get one yet?
No. Oh, I didn't get one. I didn't get a Cooper's Lane, but there's a Oliver Lane.
Commissioner Cooper, can I address that? It has nothing to do with him.
I know it doesn't.
When we do communities around, we actually do try to use family names and children's names and this, that, and the other. And it just so happens that Phil Collins, who's a part of our team, he's got a grandbaby named Cooper. I mean, excuse me.
All right.
All right, we'll get you one too. No, he's got a grandbaby named Oliver, so.
You said it, there's a granddaughter named Cooper. So we get that Cooper in there. I appreciate it, thank you.
Commissioner Gilligan.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Britt, for making the verbal commitment about the interior sidewalks. I know that is not a requirement, and I think we've kind of outgrown our LDO, so thank you for expressing interest in looking into that and possibly providing it. I really appreciate that. I'm kind of wondering if, when we put our affordable housing committee together, maybe we could invite the builder to that and just express what we would like to see and see if they could meet us in the middle somewhere. The Verbos and the Airbnbs and all of those wonderfully profitable short-term rentals are pressing out our local folks who are really looking for this workforce housing, and I appreciate that you're thinking workforce housing. So thank you for that. Anywhere you can put an extra tree, thank you.
Yeah.
And in terms of the parking, you know, it just shows that we're outgrowing our LDO. I do think you're going to have pressure at times of Thanksgiving and occasions like that. Luckily, you're going to be next to the food kitty, and there could be opportunities for parking, but that's not the case in every development like this. But we're getting ready to update, and we will adjust accordingly. So thanks so much for being willing to hear some of our concerns and being flexible in some ways.
Yeah.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you.
Can I?
Yeah.
I think I saw somewhere, are you not gonna have also at least 27 additional parking spaces?
We are.
10%, yeah.
Yeah, they're spread throughout the site, different places.
Spread throughout the site?
Can I ask one more question too?
Sure.
Commissioner Gilligan just made me think, are people going to be allowed to park at the Food Lion parking lot? And is that going to cause an issue for the people that are trying to use Food Lion? And I think about this because there's a lot of flooding in the Food Lion parking lot.
There's no official agreement as far as shared parking over there. They've been great to work with. They reached agreement for the connection to the highway. I mean, we're bringing customers to them as well. But there's no agreement for shared parking. Whether it'll happen, I'm sure it will at some point in time. If it becomes a problem, I'll expect somebody will complain and they have to take it up with the developer or the HOA.
Right, so what I'm foreseeing is it could become actually a big conflict, because right now we usually have enough spaces in our Food Lion parking lot. When it rains and it floods, we don't have it, it's often full. So I can foresee that everybody goes and parks their extra car over at Food Lion, and now all of a sudden we have angry Food Lion customers, Food Lion is upset. So I guess then we just have to enforce, well, you can't park over there, but who's going to enforce that? So I do see that becoming an issue.
I mean, I think that would ultimately, be a bad situation for sure, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. But, hopefully the shopping center management could address it with our either developers or HOA community to nip it in the bud if it becomes a problem. But, from the target zoning, even though you're saying you're going to be updating, and I understand that, we're providing there, and your ordinance actually has penalties for providing too much parking. So we're trying to find that balance, and we kind of worked with staff and felt like we kind of got to where we needed to be on the balance. And who knows who our ultimate buyer is? That's the tough part about what we do. But hopefully it won't be a problem for Food Lion Shopping Center.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Who will collect the trash?
That'll be waste management.
I'm sorry?
Waste management.
And will that be done out of everybody's putting their can out at the street? Or will that be?
We have dumpsters.
But I didn't notice, I only noticed two. Did I miss something?
There's two dumpsters at two locations.
Right. So are we saying that we're expecting the individual occupants to take their trash to the dumpster?
We are.
Good luck. Okay.
Well, we need to put your number down on everything that you put in that subdivision. Any further questions? Okay. But I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank you for coming here, but I wanted to provide you with just a little education to take back to the builders, because we had a question about workforce housing. And thank you for that segue, Commissioner Gilligan. And we do want to start a committee to talk about what workforce housing means. So I'm going to give you just a slight definition that you can Google. And we're looking at those individuals who are working in our service industry, our police officers, our firefighters, our teachers. Those are the individuals that we're hoping to target, those people that take care of us. And we base that on your area median income. So for Carteret County, it's about 94,000. And if you take 80% of that, it gives you about 75,000. And the amount of house I can buy for that is about $350,000. So that's just doing some light research, pushing some numbers out. So that's what affordable housing looks like to me. So if that could be something that could be provided, something that's within there, at least a percentage of setbacks that would cover that kind of cost, to look at that area median income and to see if we can get those individuals into some housing, that would be great. And if you are interested in participating in a panel, as soon as we put together one, would love to invite you and your daughter to come to that, because you're going to be part of making affordable housing possible. Everything else, everybody else is all happy with them, so they can sit down? All right, no more questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Please take that information back to your builder.
Thank you.
All right. So based on the conversation that we just had, commissioners, I invite you guys to talk amongst yourselves. And then what is the pleasure of the board when it comes down to approving or denying this proposed site plan?
I've got 4 items that are on my list. Short-term rental,
Okay.
cleaning up the HOA covenants to be more definitive on no parking in the streets, the sidewalk issue, which they verbally mentioned, and re-examining the garbage collection, because I don't think it's reasonable to expect the homeowners in the sections. As I remember, the one garbage collection's up north, they're both up the north end, I think they're both at the top end of the page, and I think that's north also. And I think there needs to be, well, I guess the way I answered is just, perhaps GFI has to be, I mean, they planning on having 135 trash cans to empty in that neighborhood? I guess that's what they're saying. So I've got a little problem with the garbage situation. I don't know what the answer is, but those are the 4 things that I have on my,
I thought he had
This-
mentioned
What was the
dumpster.
fourth?
I thought he had mentioned the dumpster.
Yeah, they
well,
say
he's got
that-
dumpsters up in the northwest corner, and there's up in the end, there are 2 dumpsters there, but I just don't know if that's a practical solution. Again, the 3 things that I really want to hear about is short-term rental, better language in the HOA about no parking, and the sidewalk things which they've offered. But garbage I'm worried about, especially trying to, no disrespect to GFI, but taking a garbage truck down those streets, 135 doors, I'm not sure
Yeah.
if that's a reasonable solution in a townhouse.
Actually, waste management.
Thank you.
GFI's off the hook, yeah.
Jeff out
They're on Cooper Lane.
Let's hope.
Somebody in your family has to have a Sharon, I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Just saying, there's gotta be a Sharon in your family somewhere.
And
All
probably an Allison too.
And although this is not a contingency of approval, but I would like for you guys to seriously think about housing affordability and what that could look like based on the numbers, and to be able to offer some of our people in our community an opportunity for home ownership. It would be greatly appreciated. So we have Sandra's wish list of 4 things. Okay.
I agree totally with Commissioner Oliver list there. So, did you put that in the motion there, Commissioner Oliver?
I thought this was only a discussion at
It's a
this point.
discussion. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, I don't have anything for discussion.
Any further items for discussion? Well, with that, okay, yes.
No, I just wanted to acknowledge what Commissioner Oliver brought up, but we can't condition this based on those things though, because they've met all of the LDO requirements.
Except the water allocation, sewer allocation.
Yes, and that's the next item.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah,
No conditions?
we still have a little leverage.
Okay.
And I think I think their interest is as great as ours,
Sure.
so I don't mind talking about it
Oh,
openly.
definitely. I definitely want to encourage it and make sure, and encourage those things as much as possible.
Right.
But I was just wondering if that was in your motion or just acknowledging that.
I didn't make a
He's
motion.
having a
He's not
discussion.
making everything.
Well, I feel you're on the brink of making a motion.
Stop leading her on. All right, now that we've had some discussion, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'd be glad to make a motion that, well, let me ask a question before I do.
Okay.
Short-term rentals, I mean, it's not, it exceeds our ordinance at the present time, except possibly under the water and sewer.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Well, I would love to have a proposal to them that they would consider short-term rentals not less than 30 days. I'd rather have 90, personally, I'd accept 30-day minimum short-term rental period. Can we make that a condition of this approval?
Is that in our ordinance somewhere, Michelle? Then no, sir.
We don't
No.
have any.
No.
Right.
We don't have anything. That's been the problem, that we don't have anything addressing short-term rental.
Then I'd make a motion to table this discussion and ask them to come back at the next scheduled meeting to see if they could consider the issues that we discussed tonight.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay. Now we're gonna move on to the sewer allocation request for the towns at Live Oak. Here comes
Mayor
Greg.
Greg, yes, Greg's coming forward, Mayor.
Is there any way we can turn the AC down, because I'm about to catch pneumonia here?
Is there any way we can turn the speakers?
Paul, will you,
Speakers up? Can you hear that?
I think Mark's got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
No, Mark, oh, Mark.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Since the site plan was not approved tonight, if we were to go forward with this, it would become a request for reservation as opposed to one for allocation. And the request for reservation would require if it were to be granted, would require the developer to pay a reservation fee. I would suggest, but it's totally up to the developer, that the allocation go concurrent with plan approval. So I would suggest this be tabled also.
All right.
All right. Okay.
Based on staff advice, can I get a motion to table the sewer allocation request?
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to the sewer allocation, the Beaufort Maritime Museum Education Center. Thank you for coming.
This is a request for allocation for, of course, the Beaufort Maritime Museum Education Center. It's a request for 7,200 gallons per day of sewer allocation. The plan has already been approved, and consequently, because this is an approved plan located within the town limits, it is a priority one development as described by our sewer allocation policy, which means it gets the highest priority for allocation of sewer. And the 7,200 gallons per day represents about 0.5% of our treatment capacity. So with that, I would say that the Maritime Museum, now that they have a site plan, they need sewer. So this is the request for that sewer.
Okay. Let's see if anybody has any questions for you. Commissioner Oliver?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo?
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Spiegler?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilligan?
No questions.
All right, thank you very much. That was quick, right? So unless the board requires any further discussion, what is the pleasure of the board when it comes to the sewer allocation request for the Beaufort Maritime Museum?
I'll make a motion to grant the sewer allocation request for the Beaufort Maritime Museum Education Center as presented.
Okay, thank you. I've got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the acceptance of the public improvements at Spoco Subdivision Phase 5.
Yes, the Blue Treasure, the developer, or Preston Development, the developer of the Boco subdivision, has proposed to dedicate to us the infrastructure, certain infrastructure within Phase 5 of the Boco subdivision development. You can see there, I have circled where Phase 5 is located. And you can see some important landmarks there, such as Freedom Park, the wastewater treatment plant, and the Lennoxville Road. So that shaded area is essentially Phase 5. And this comes after having phases of the infrastructure in Phases 1 and 2 dedicated to the town also through two separate actions. And what they're proposing to dedicate, you can see there, is streets, curbs, stormwater conveyance, pipes and sidewalks, anything within the street public right-of-way that is not associated with a state stormwater permit. Some of the sidewalks are pervious sidewalks, and they're associated with a state stormwater permit, and so that is not going to be the responsibility of the town to maintain that. The alleyways behind much of the development in Bow Coast is pervious concrete. That is not to be maintained by the town. That is to be maintained by the HOA. They're also dedicating 1,550 linear feet of 12-inch diameter water mains, 760 linear feet, and that's, I think, a typo. That's supposed to be 8-inch diameter water mains. The fire hydrants, valves, fittings, everything that goes along with the water lines. And they're dedicating almost 2,300 linear feet of 8-inch diameter gravity sewer line, and the manholes, clean outs, and all the things that go along with that. This infrastructure, as it was being constructed, was observed periodically by the engineers' construction observation personnel, and it has been witnessed at times periodically by staff, and staff has conducted all the appropriate, or been present for, if they didn't conduct it themselves, all the appropriate tests. The certifications have been made to the state for this infrastructure, the water and sewer. The state has signed off on it. And lastly, we did a walkover. Staff did a walkover of all the infrastructure, came up with a punch list, and to my knowledge, all that has been resolved. So with that, staff says that if you're so inclined to accept the infrastructure, everything is in place for that. So we are asking you to consider the resolution that accepts the infrastructure as detailed there on the screen.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Let's see if anybody has any questions for you. Commissioner Oliver?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo?
I have no question.
Thank you. Commissioner Spiegler?
So you said Thank you, Greg. You said that we've already had phases 1 through 2 infrastructure dedicated to the town, correct?
Yes, we had 2 different sessions on that, yes.
About how long ago was that? A couple of
One
years?
was in the fall, and the other one was not long before that.
Okay. Have we had any issues since those were given to the town?
Not to my knowledge. No, I don't think so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
You said that there were some things that the staff asked them to correct, and you're satisfied that they have been
Yes,
corrected?
yes. Such things as cracked curb line. There was locations where curbs were cracked. It was mostly, above ground stuff that needed to be addressed. Where you had construction traffic that came along, and large trucks that struck things and caused things to go askew, and they've been taken care of.
No question.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner
Thank you.
Gillikin?
No questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Greg. Unless there's further discussion amongst the board members, what is the pleasure of the board when considering adopting the resolution accepting the sewer and water utilities, public streets, sidewalks, and infrastructure?
I'd like to make a motion for all that you just said, sidewalks and what else you said?
Water, sewer, public streets, public asset, sidewalk infrastructure, public lands, right-of-way, easements.
Okay.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to the resolution. This is a petition for annexation of 233 Leander Drive.
Mayor, I'll recognize our town clerk, Elizabeth Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Before you tonight is the resolution that's on the screen. For consideration, it would be to instruct the town clerk to investigate the petition for annexation submitted by Stroud Engineering for voluntary annexation on behalf of property owners Corinne English and Parker Yost for 233 Leander Drive. The annexation application and map are attached for your review in the meeting packet. And just a reminder, this is the first step in the process of annexation. Again, this is a legislative decision of the board whether or not they would like me to move forward with this.
Okay, all righty. Commissioner Oliver, do you have any questions?
I do. I believe I'm correct in this, and I don't know who to direct my question to, but it appears there are 3 lots on Leonda, north of Lennoxville, towards Freedom Park, that have never been annexed in our county. I'm a little questioning whether we're gonna be doing lots annexations. I mean, should we be doing all 3, or should there be some more consensus? How is it gonna get serviced with when they eventually come to us and ask for water and sewer? And I also go back to the other, last time we had a request by a landowner without having a plan being brought for what this is going to be, which I think was Beth's parcels. So I kind of wonder if we shouldn't have a strategy, or at least consistency, if you would, that if we're going to consider a lot, should we see if there's consensus with all 3 first, and secondly, whether we should know what the plan is before we agree to annexation. That's my only questions.
Okay. That's something you can't answer, right? So. No, okay, very good. All right, so Commissioner Lopiccolo, have any questions about the annexation, or just a discussion?
What was this come before the planning board already? Does the planning board have any say on this at all? Or no?
No.
This would not go before the planning board.
And would we have any say? It is a R20 lot. We really wouldn't have any say, except a single-family home really built on R20. If they wanted to change it, then they'd have to come to us.
They'd have to do a lot split.
They'd have to do a lot split, right?
Yeah.
And then we would have, well, in R20, you can subdivide as an R20 to other R20s, but if you want to go to any other R, you would have to then come in, but before us. Do we have water sewer available in front of that parcel? Does the engineer, does Greg, do you know? Is it pretty easy to tap into that there, or would it have to be run or provided specifically for that lot?
I believe it's fronted by sewer.
It's fronted by sewer.
I can't hear you.
I believe it's fronted by sewer. It's fronted by water, I know for sure, and I believe it's fronted by gravity sewer.
So I guess it just comes down to whether we have, should we know what the plan is before we agree to annex it? They're certainly gonna come back and ask for water and sewer, especially if it's in front of the lot.
Sure.
I'm not committed to knowing the plan. I think it's a bit different than the very large annexation study request that came before us several months ago. I'm confident that it wouldn't be anything that we would be too disappointed with, and if there were a big change from R20, it would have to come before us. So
Yeah.
I would feel comfortable not knowing, because it's such a small,
Right.
it would be such a small project.
Commissioner Cooper?
Oh,
I'm
Going in
along.
order,
I'm in order with.
But she got me out of order. I'm sorry, yes. Commissioner Spiegel, you're right.
or did Commissioner LaPiccolo go? I'm sorry, did you go already?
He did,
I
and
did.
then
Okay.
Paula chimed in and threw me off, but you're
Okay.
next.
well, I agree with Commissioner Gillikin and actually Commissioner Oliver. So this is right across the street from my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I was actually, when I saw this, I was surprised that it wasn't already in town limits because it's right across the street from Phase 5 Bocos. It's 2 minutes from my house. So I actually thought it was already in the town. And I'm curious, are the other lots right there also, like you're saying, are we gonna get requests for those pretty soon also? But they, like Commissioner Gillikin said, we're only approving one site. There is a house right next door, and I did not do my homework, so I don't know if that's actually within our town limits or not. So it may be, if it's not, they might request, but I'm guessing they maybe already are. I don't know. I should have done my homework on that. But it's only, 3 lots. It's right across from Phase 5 of Bow Coast. At this point, it's probably better that they tap into our sewer lines, I would think, because it's near
So
very
just
dense
remember, the
development.
task is just to consider adopting a draft to do an annexation. So there's a lot of questions that we'll still
Right.
have, but you
And
have,
just to add, Mayor, all 3 of those lots are ETJ lots.
They are.
So the
Okay,
middle
thank you,
lot,
Elizabeth.
yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. Very interesting. So yes, that's all my comments, really.
okay. All right, Commissioner Cooper. Yay.
I would love for them to may have even asked the other lot owners if they wanted to come in on this. I mean, going lot by lot, we do this one and then the other one come in. So I would love for them to have asked their neighbors and other lot owners, of their plans and ask them if they wanted to come in. Do you know if that was done there, Elizabeth?
I'm not sure. There's 3 separate property owners, and this property owner came forward for the annexation.
And I know this is just an exploratory thing, but I don't know.
Okay,
I guess my final question.
okay.
Is, would it be appropriate to ask other landowners what their intentions are? And do these individual ones usually come as a package? Would it be 3 separate studies just in one clump, or would it be 3 properties in one study?
It would be 3 separate applications. I think you probably, at the end of the day, could do one annexation ordinance and combine them. I think you could get away with that and not have to do 3 separate ordinances. But I guess you can ask the property owners, but if they say no or don't call you back, it is what it is.
So I would like to not delay the study on this one, but could we say that we would authorize Elizabeth to start to do the study and also make contact with those property owners simultaneously? Could we do that or agree on that?
Can we do that?
Can we do
Yes, we
that?
can do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Your homework has just gotten bigger.
Interesting.
All right, any further questions?
I do know him.
So when it comes down to considering adopting the attached resolution to allow for the clerk to investigate the petition at hand, and do we need to attach to that motion? No, just, okay, let's keep it with that. I need a motion. Anybody?
I make a motion, we, move forward with the clerk being, continuing to do the site planning for this, petition request for annexation on 233, London's Drive.
All right, so we've got a motion on the floor to continue the investigation for petition to annexation. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, now we're gonna move on to manager's report.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Board. To start with a reminder that we have meetings set up with our attorney that's representing the town and leading us through the Unified Development Ordinance adoption process. We have special meetings of the Board of Commissioners, the Planning Board, and the Steering Committee on June 26th and 27th. The meetings are open for the public to attend. A public input session will be at 6 p.m. on June 27th here at the depot. If you have questions or need additional information, you can contact our planner, Michelle Eitner, in our planning department. Our Harbor and Waterways Public Charrette, the results of those, the final report is available on our town website at www.beaufortnc.org/projects. Board, we will be meeting on July the 9th with representatives of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality concerning our high rate infiltration basin project. That's just an informational item for you. We'll also be talking about what would be necessary if we explored the expansion of our wastewater treatment plant. So that's noted there as well. We have a meeting on June the 24th with our contractors for our USDA funded projects. So just be aware of that. We will be, among other things, looking at the schedule for commencing construction and what that schedule will be like, and we will keep you updated with that regard. There are other ongoing items of business there for your knowledge and information. We do have upcoming meetings listed on the right-hand side of the page there. So please take note of those meetings and as well as the upcoming events. On the reverse side of your manager's report, you'll note that our planning staff is assembling information for our community rating system audit that will take place later this year. The audit determines the flood insurance discount for the town, which as of right now is a Class 7 and offers a 15% discount on flood insurance policies for primary residents. So please be aware of that. Also, congratulations, Kyle. Thank you for working on our recertification from the State Historic Preservation Office. We are a certified local government, so great work there. Public utilities, water and sewer. We had mentioned the towns at Live Oak earlier this evening. Just be aware, Mayor and Board, as Commissioner Oliver pointed out, we do have an obligation if and when that subdivision is approved to run water and sewer utilities as well as make street and curb gutter connections related to that project. We did look at bidding that out this month and bringing back a budget amendment, but we will keep you apprised as where we are in that process. We may delay letting bids on that project until we have final approval on this project. So just be aware of that. Other things in the fire department, we are expecting our new fire engine pumper to be delivered the week of June 10th. Our fire department is also working with our PIO to conduct a Beaufort Hurricane Forum, and that's scheduled for 1:00 p.m. on July 10th. So you can stay abreast of that on our website as well. And with our police department, we have Coffee with a Cop, 8:30 a.m. Saturday, June 22nd at Ace Hardware. There are other informational items there, Mayor and Board, for your consumption, and I just request that you review those as well. That concludes the report, Mayor.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about the report? Commissioner Oliver?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Spiegler?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
No.
Thank you. And Commissioner Gilligan?
What is the maximum class we can get in the CRS? We're at 7 now. Do you know off the top of your head?
6, Kyle, is that correct? Can you give us a little bit further background on that, what that means?
Class 6, because of how the North Carolina building code is set up, is the max we can go without doing some other special things that are quite expensive. Some of your larger municipalities in North Carolina actually have a lower rating than that. But 6 would give a 20% discount on flood.
Okay, so 5 additional.
So 5 additional, and even though we're at a class 7, if you have a home that's your second home and you have flood insurance, you can get a 5% credit on that insurance.
Okay.
So the class 7 is pretty good for us, but we are shooting for a 6.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. Now we're going to move on to Mayor and Commissioner comments. We're going to start with Commissioner Oliver.
I have none.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo.
I have none.
Thank you. Commissioner Spiegler.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who is participating today, both in person and online. I want to encourage everybody to come to the public UDO meetings at the end of the month. And then the last thing I was going to say is I was at a community meeting down east a week or 2 ago, and the National Weather Service spoke to us and reminded us that it is hurricane season here now, and we live in a beautiful place, and we also have we have coastal hazards. So they reminded us now is the time to put your hurricane kit together. And even though I've lived here a long time, it was a good reminder to me that we need to be prepared. So I just wanted to give that to everybody here as well. So get your hurricane kit together. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper.
Yes, thank you everyone that's in attendance. Also, this coming weekend is Juneteenth celebration. There is will be a golf tournament this Saturday at the Beaufort Club. They can't do the golf. Oh, they didn't let me know. Sorry about that. There's supposed to be a cook-off, as far as I know. But anyway, there will be vendors at the farmers market this weekend. So if you'd like to go out and support. Also, before I came to the meeting, I was looking at the news and the Big Rock tournament. They had one that came in at 5:04, and about 2 hours later, one came in at 5:16. And these are record-breaking catches that exceed the last year's weight. So obviously, there's some big fish out there to be caught. That's all I have, Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Gilligan.
So I'm a history buff. So in June of 1724, the trustees of Beaufort deeded Old Town Lot 91, which is just south of Purpose Chapel, to the wardens of the parish of St. John's and the rest of the vestrymen. And I assume that's what became the Methodist Church eventually. So just a cool tidbit for my comment and nothing else.
It's very good. Good information. All right, I want to thank everyone who is here today and those who have actually tuned in. Your participation in how this government work is very important, and we can't do this without you. Spring is gone and summer is here, so we're all outside and enjoying ourselves. I've been at the farmers market for the past couple of weekends, and I'm noticing a few things, and I just wanted to give a little community message to all of those who have our four-legged family friends called dogs. And when they're on a leash, if you can kind of keep them tight so that they don't interact, our dogs love each other, but in a different way. And our dogs love ourselves and may love somebody else differently. So until you can figure out the lay of the land, please be careful. Keep them on a tight leash until you're able to introduce them comfortably in a social setting. Even if you have your dog on your own property unleashed, please be careful with them. Sometimes they can get away and they can cause individuals to be startled or somehow become disconnected from their journey. Want to thank the staff. Enormous amount of energy went into our budget. Want to thank you, Todd. Where's Christy? And everybody else in between for going through this budget session. This is something that's not easily done, and they prepare months and months in advance to make sure that we have a balanced budget presented. And last but not least, I want to thank the commissioners for doing their homework, for making sure that they reviewed all of the information so that we are running the town in the best possible way. And I do not have to use my snack today. We are going to be able to adjourn at a decent hour. So unless there's any other business, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Thank you.
7:39.